Imagine a life spiraling out of control, where love turns into manipulation, and a relationship once full of promise becomes a deadly trap. This is the story of Lauren, a young woman caught in the grip of emotional abuse and violence that culminated in an unimaginable tragedy. Despite multiple warning signs, failed interventions, and a justice system that let her down, Lauren's fate was sealed in a remote car, her life taken by someone she once trusted. What happened to her serves as a chilling reminder of the dangers of ignoring red flags and the horrifying consequences when the system fails to protect the most vulnerable. Ocean Springs, Mississippi, a serene coastal town known for its picturesque views and slow-paced lifestyle, was rocked to its core on July 3, 2024. The sudden disappearance of Lauren Johansson, a young woman who was beloved for her kindness and dedication to others, caught the attention of everyone around. What seemed like a routine day quickly turned into a nightmare, as Lauren's family was thrust into a harrowing ordeal that would uncover the dark truth of what had been happening behind closed doors. What started as an alarming disappearance would soon reveal the heartbreaking reality of love gone wrong and a justice system that failed to intervene before it was too late. In the peaceful coastal town of Ocean Springs, Mississippi, life moved at a slower pace, and its residents enjoyed a serene, tight-knit community. It was the kind of place where neighbors cared for one another, and the worries of the world seemed distant. Among its inhabitants was Lauren Johansson, a young woman whose compassion and kindness made her a beacon of light in the lives of those around her. With an innate love for animals, Lauren dedicated her time to local shelters, dreaming of one day opening a sanctuary where every stray could find refuge. But on the morning of July 3, 2024, something unimaginable happened. Lauren never returned home. Her phone went silent, and a strange message sent from her number set off alarm bells for her father. What followed was a deeply unsettling series of events, exposing the cracks in the system meant to protect and serve. Born on October 30, 2001, Lauren Johansson grew up in Ocean Springs, a town that was as picturesque as it was peaceful. The oak-lined streets, the vast beaches, and the charm of the coastal community created a beautiful backdrop to her childhood. But to Lauren, Ocean Springs was more than just a scenic destination, it was home. Here she experienced the warmth of a loving family who shaped her into the kind and responsible person she would become. Raised by her parents, Robert and Tamila, Lauren's upbringing was one of care and devotion. She had two older sisters, both of whom faced significant health challenges from birth. From a young age, Lauren stepped in to assist her parents, taking on a caregiving role that instilled in her a deep sense of compassion and responsibility. Even as a child, Lauren had an extraordinary ability to care for others. She was always looking out for those around her, eager to make life a little easier for anyone in need. Her love for animals blossomed early, and it wasn't just the family pets she cared for, it was all creatures, big and small. Her parents nurtured this passion, and over the years it grew into a calling. By her teenage years, Lauren was volunteering at local animal shelters, not only caring for dogs and cats but also tending to injured wildlife, horses, birds, and even wild creatures in need of rescue. Her dedication to helping those who couldn't help themselves became a hallmark of who she was. In high school, Lauren decided to pursue nursing, a natural fit for her nurturing spirit. She enrolled in the nursing program at the University of Southern Mississippi, where she excelled. Her grades were a testament to her tireless work ethic and her genuine desire to make a difference in people's lives. But Lauren's dreams didn't stop there. Since childhood, she had envisioned creating a sanctuary for the rescue and rehabilitation of animals. Every dollar she earned went into a fund for this mission, a project that became her driving force, giving her a sense of purpose that was unmatched. During her senior year of high school, Lauren met Bryson Rivers, a charming and athletic young man who quickly became a significant part of her life. Bryson, a year older than Lauren, was the epitome of the perfect guy. Born on February 9, 2000, he came from a large family with strong religious values. His parents placed great importance on family, faith, and close relationships. As the oldest sibling, Bryson was expected to care for his younger brothers and sisters, a responsibility that shaped him into a disciplined and responsible individual. In high school, Bryson was a standout both academically and athletically, excelling in track and field as well as football. His peers admired him, and his teachers saw great potential in him. On the surface, Lauren and Bryson's relationship appeared flawless. They were both driven and ambitious, with a deep connection that seemed to complement one another. Lauren often spoke fondly of Bryson, noting his thoughtfulness and the way he always supported her. Bryson, in turn, praised Lauren's caring nature and was always by her side, attending important events and making her feel valued. But over time, subtle changes began to surface, and what seemed like a perfect relationship started to unravel. Initially, Bryson's desire to spend more time with Lauren seemed endearing. He would often ask about her day or request that they be together more. But soon, these requests morphed into demands, and Bryson's jealousy started to rear its head. He grew increasingly possessive, wanting to control who Lauren interacted with, including her male friends and classmates. His jealousy was justified as him simply looking out for her, but it became evident that he wanted to control every aspect of her life. Lauren's friends began to notice troubling changes in her behavior. She attended fewer social events and began avoiding conversations about her relationship. When they expressed concern, Lauren would brush it off, attributing Bryson's actions to stress or the pressures of school and preparing for military service. But, as time passed, Bryson's behavior escalated. His emotional manipulation became more pronounced, and Lauren found herself increasingly adapting to his expectations. Any attempt to establish boundaries was met with anger, and he would quickly reassure her that everything he did was for the good of their relationship. This toxic dynamic began to feel normal to Lauren, and she excused Bryson's controlling tendencies, dismissing them as temporary difficulties. The situation took a darker turn when Bryson first showed physical aggression during an argument. His frustration boiled over, and he grabbed Lauren's wrist, preventing her from leaving the room. This was the moment when the behavior she had excused for so long crossed a line. Though shaken, Lauren rationalized the incident, telling her friends that Bryson had been upset and hadn't meant to hurt her. But those closest to her could see the cracks forming in the relationship, and they grew increasingly concerned. Lauren's demeanor changed. She withdrew from her friends and stopped talking about the good times in her relationship, instead focusing on the conflicts. Bryson's behavior became more critical, accusing Lauren of causing their problems. Her friends tried to warn her, urging her to see the red flags, but Lauren defended him, insisting that things would get better. Little did she know the situation was about to take a terrifying turn. Another red flag emerged in Bryson's public behavior. His passive-aggressive tendencies became more apparent, particularly when he interrupted Lauren during conversations or made sharp remarks when he felt she was drawing too much attention. One such incident occurred during a night out with friends. When Lauren thanked a waiter for their service, the simple gesture seemed to infuriate Bryson. From that point on, he made his displeasure known, using passive-aggressive comments that left Lauren feeling uneasy and confused. Lauren's father, Robert, also began to notice subtle but concerning changes in Bryson's behavior. While he had never witnessed any overt aggression from Bryson, something in his gut told him that something wasn't right. Concerned, he tried speaking to Lauren about her relationship several times, but each attempt was met with deflection. Lauren insisted that her father was being overly protective and unfairly critical of Bryson. The deeper the problems grew, the more Lauren withdrew from those who cared about her. The tipping point came when Lauren stopped sharing her feelings altogether. Whenever her friends or family tried to discuss her relationship, she would abruptly change the subject or defend Bryson, explaining away his behavior as stress, exhaustion, or work-related frustrations. In her mind, she began to believe it was her responsibility to avoid triggering his outbursts, making herself responsible for his volatile emotions. These patterns of aggression and manipulation formed a tight, suffocating cycle for Lauren. As she became more isolated from those who could have helped her, Bryson's control tightened. She started to internalize her struggle, believing that she could handle the situation on her own, completely unaware that she had already fallen into emotional and psychological dependence on him. In December 2023, Lauren and Bryson decided to take a trip to Nashville. Bryson was on leave from the military, and Lauren was on winter break from college. For Lauren, it was a brief escape from her routine, a chance to enjoy the festive city. For Bryson, it was an opportunity to present himself as the caring and attentive partner, the one who could make her feel safe and valued. The trip began uneventfully. The first few days were filled with walks through the city, visits to local landmarks, and meals at well-reviewed restaurants. Bryson seemed calm, and they appeared to be enjoying their time together, though Lauren couldn't shake the sense that something was brewing beneath the surface. On December 11th, they decided to visit a local bar to watch a football game that Bryson had been eagerly anticipating. At first, everything seemed fine. They ordered drinks, watched the game, and Lauren seemed relaxed, though her eyes betrayed a hint of weariness. But things took a dark turn when Lauren went to use the restroom. On her way, she asked a waiter for directions, and when she returned to the table, Bryson's demeanor had shifted. Tension clouded his face, and he suddenly accused her of deliberately seeking the waiter's attention. Without any logical reason, Bryson's paranoia and jealousy surged. He began making accusations of infidelity, completely unfounded. The argument escalated quickly, with Bryson raising his voice and ignoring Lauren's attempts to calm him down. Witnesses later recalled that Lauren tried to de-escalate the situation, but Bryson wouldn't listen. The couple left the bar, and the tension between them only grew as they headed to their car park nearby. Once in the car, Bryson's control reached a new level. He locked the doors, trapping Lauren inside, and took her phone, cutting off any means of communication. What followed was a horrifying outburst. Bryson's anger erupted into physical violence as he began to strike Lauren, ignoring her desperate cries for help. She banged on the windows and honked the horn, hoping someone would hear and come to her aid. But the streets were empty, and no one came. After what felt like an eternity, Bryson started the car and drove through deserted streets, making chilling threats along the way. He told her he would leave her body in the woods, where no one would ever find it. The assault continued in an isolated parking lot. Desperate to protect herself, Lauren reached for the handgun she carried for self-defense, but Bryson stopped her, snatching the bag away before she could retrieve it. The brutal assault lasted nearly an hour, and during that time, Lauren endured relentless cruelty. Bryson's threats grew more disturbing, and his detachment was chilling. At one point, audio recordings from Lauren's phone captured Bryson coldly commenting on how her head was beginning to resemble a bowling ball due to the swelling from the blows. Her rescue came unexpectedly. During the assault, Bryson made a phone call to his mother. As Lauren screamed in the background, she begged Bryson's mother to call the police. Recognizing that something was terribly wrong, Bryson's mother contacted law enforcement, though she didn't know their exact location. In the meantime, Robert, Lauren's father, used a family tracking app on their phones to pinpoint her location. When police arrived, they heard Lauren's screams coming from inside the car. Officers opened the door to find Bryson still restraining her. Lauren was battered and bloodied, barely conscious and unable to speak. Her injuries were a stark testament to the violence she had endured. Bryson was arrested on the spot, and Lauren was rushed to the hospital, where medical staff were left stunned by the severity of her injuries. Multiple bruises, swelling, and signs of extreme pain showed just how much she had suffered. Despite everything, Lauren refused to press charges. She explained that she didn't want to ruin Bryson's life or harm his military career. While Bryson was in custody, he repeatedly tried to contact Lauren, exploiting unclear gaps in jail regulations to make calls. In those calls, he manipulated her, promising to change and swearing he would never hurt her again. Succumbing to his pressure, Lauren agreed to revise her initial statements, which significantly affected the trajectory of the case. Despite the substantial evidence against him, including audio recordings and Lauren's testimony, Bryson was granted the possibility of bail. His bail was initially set at $250,000. but later reduced to $150,000 after his legal team filed an appeal. To many, this decision was a shock, and Lauren's family feared the reduced bail would put her at further risk. But despite their concerns, Bryson was released after his mother paid the bail. As part of his release, Bryson was required to wear a GPS-enabled ankle monitor to track his movements, and was prohibited from leaving Nashville or attempting to contact Lauren. However, bureaucratic errors soon allowed him to exploit the system. The officer who escorted him to the monitoring center failed to enforce the strict restrictions. As a result, the GPS monitor was improperly configured, and Bryson was free to violate the terms of his release. When the battery on his ankle monitor ran low, Bryson ignored the notification and allowed it to die, making it impossible for authorities to track him. Despite the monitoring center's awareness of the issue, no immediate action was taken. It wasn't until several days later that Robert learned of the situation, when law enforcement informed him that Bryson's whereabouts were unknown. With no immediate action taken by police, Robert and Lauren's family took matters into their own hands. Robert demanded that the police locate Bryson and investigate every lead, including the GPS system in Lauren's car. Despite their persistent efforts, the authorities failed to act swiftly enough. Days after the ankle monitor stopped working, Bryson's location remained a mystery. Robert continued to pressure law enforcement, urging them to take more decisive action. The situation reached a breaking point on July 2nd when police finally issued a warrant for Bryson's arrest, confirming that he had violated the terms of his release. But by then, it was too late. When Robert opened the door to Lauren's car, he was met with a horrifying sight. In the back seat, Lauren's body was wrapped in a sheet, stuffed into black trash bags. Her face and head were so severely injured that she was almost unrecognizable. Robert, a medical professional accustomed to seeing traumatic injuries, later admitted that nothing in his career could have prepared him for what he saw that day. While some officers continued searching for Bryson, others began documenting the scene. Bloodstains inside the car and on the upholstery indicated that Lauren had endured a brutal beating before her death. Despite the emotional and physical toll it took on him, Robert stayed at the scene, refusing to leave, even as his own health began to deteriorate. The search for Bryson lasted several hours. Helicopters equipped with thermal imaging technology were deployed, and eventually he was located deep in the woods. Officers surrounded the area, and after a 9-hour search, Bryson was apprehended. At the time of his arrest, he did not resist and appeared unnervingly calm. During his interrogation, Bryson Rivers provided his version of events. He claimed that on the morning Lauren was killed, he arrived at her home, knowing she planned to spend the day alone. For several days she had been ignoring his calls, which had fueled his anger and suspicions. Bryson couldn't accept that Lauren was trying to distance herself from him. After waiting for her to leave the house, he approached her outside, intending to talk. According to his account, Lauren refused to engage with him and tried to walk away. He grabbed her arm, forced her into the car, and locked the doors. Bryson admitted to taking Lauren to a remote location outside the city, where he thought they could talk privately. However, the conversation quickly turned into an argument. Lauren demanded to be let go, threatening to contact the police, which only intensified Bryson's anger. He began yelling, accusing her of betrayal. When Lauren attempted to open the door to escape, Bryson shoved her back into the seat, marking the beginning of a violent spiral. According to his statement, Bryson claimed he was trying to calm her down but ended up using physical force, hitting her repeatedly. After the attack, Lauren was unconscious. Bryson said he initially tried to revive her but, realizing she was no longer alive, decided to dispose of her body. He wrapped her in a blanket from the trunk and placed her in the back seat of the car. Bryson then drove further into the countryside and stopped near Wolf River Cemetery, an isolated area. He left the car there with Lauren's body, intending to return later to destroy the evidence. But before he could carry out his plan, police tracking his movements found the vehicle. The news of Lauren's tragic death and Bryson's capture sent shockwaves through the community. Media coverage not only focused on the horror of the crime, but also the numerous failures within the justice system that allowed Bryson to evade proper monitoring after his release on bail. Lauren's family, deep in grief, issued a public statement urging the community to address the systemic flaws that contributed to this devastating tragedy. Bryson's mother, who had paid his bail, faced sharp public criticism. Many questioned whether she fully understood the potential consequences of her actions, while others condemned her for enabling her son's behavior. However, Lauren's family never openly blamed her. At Lauren's funeral, friends, family, and countless residents of Ocean Springs gathered to mourn her loss. To everyone who knew her, Lauren remained a symbol of kindness, selflessness, and a dedication to helping others. In her memory, her family established a foundation to support animal welfare projects, a cause close to Lauren's heart. Meanwhile, preparations for Bryson's trial were underway. Given his prior assault on Lauren, the court took the charges very seriously. However, the public outrage over the fact that he had been granted bail in the first place only intensified. Many called for reforms to bail laws to prevent similar tragedies from occurring in the future. In December 2024, Bryson Rivers stood trial facing charges of kidnapping, first-degree murder, and attempted destruction of evidence. The trial is ongoing, and a final verdict has yet to be reached. Lauren's story became more than just a tragedy for one family. It sparked vital conversations about the failures of the justice system when it comes to addressing victims of domestic violence. Her story serves as a sobering reminder that ignoring early warning signs can have irreversible consequences. One of the most pressing questions remains: why, despite the audio recordings of the attack, witness testimonies, and physical evidence, was Bryson allowed to post bail after his initial arrest? This decision not only eroded public trust in the justice system, but also gave the perpetrator the chance to continue his violent actions. The lack of coordination between departments, failure to enforce bail conditions, and the delayed response to the malfunctioning GPS monitor were all critical errors that ultimately led to Lauren's tragic death. The flaws in the monitoring system for accused individuals were also called into question. The misconfiguration of Bryson's GPS device, ignored low battery alerts, and failure to take immediate action when he disappeared highlighted the weaknesses in existing protocols. Had authorities responded promptly, this tragedy might have been prevented.